Today, we will talk about how to prepare tofu. Want to make your tofu taste better, but don't know where to start? Here's how to cook tofu, plus some incredibly helpful tips for making the most delicious tofu you ever have. I knew I wanted to write this post about how to cook tofu after one of several incidents. The first was the realization that Gav and I had been buying the wrong tofu for over a year, but my readers hadn't been. The second was after buying the right tofu, that there would still be random friends who would say, "I've tried tofu before, I hated it." The third and final push to finally sit down and write this post was when I was told by a reader that they had no idea that they should press tofu, and that I changed their entire outlook on tofu. Tofu is delicious. Tofu is versatile, easy to use, meal prep friendly, and freezer friendly. In fact, tofu is your friend. Instead of dwelling on all the reasons tofu may have been wrong to you in the past, let's dwell on all the reasons to get it right. When you cook tofu properly and are using the correct tofu, your opinion will change. We tend to view tofu as this one-size-fits-all kind of thing, that we can buy one kind and it'll work for everything. But for comparison, we would never buy minced meat and try and make chicken parmigiano with it. In order to understand why your tofu type matters and how to ensure you're buying the right tofu, we need to dig slightly into the history of tofu. I promise this part will only take a paragraph or two. Firstly, what is tofu? Tofu, also known as bean curd, is a food made from soybeans. Tofu is often seen as a vegan meat replacement and can be used in everything from vegan meat replacements to cheesecakes to puddings to vegan eggs and so much more. One of the things that is asked a lot in relation to tofu is whether it is real. Yes, it definitely is. Tofu is actually made from soy milk, and there are many videos on YouTube of making it straight from soy milk at home to show that it is just as easy to make at home as many other vegan meat replacers. It's minimally processed and has been a component in East Asian and Southeast Asian cuisines for centuries, just to show that this isn't some recent invention. Also, tofu definitely has an expiration date. Trust me, I've personally experienced this one. If you don't have any soy issues and buy it non-GMO, it is definitely something to give a try. Tofu is also high in protein, so it's an excellent vegan source for proteins. Different types of tofu. Regular tofu versus silken tofu. Okay, I'll address it. Gav and I were buying the wrong tofu. You see, tofu isn't that widely explored, especially in Jamaica, so we just saw tofu on the shelf and bought it. Now, years later, I know the difference. If you're using tofu as a meat replacement, you're going to want to be buying regular tofu like a medium firm or extra firm tofu, not silken tofu. Regular tofu. Soft block tofu is another version of silken tofu. You can actually use this similar to how you'd use silken tofu. Medium block. This type of tofu works great for miso soups and is a bit than silken and soft. Firm extra firm block tofu. This is my favorite form of block tofu. It's firm, usually found in a bag of water or a package with water, and needs to be kept in the fridge. We use extra firm tofu more than firm. This type of tofu needs to be pressed to remove all of the water in it. You see, tofu is a sponge. You could add all the marinades in the world until you're blue. If you don't press it, it would have been useless talk. It needs that free space to soak up the marinades. More on pressing below. Silken tofu. Silken tofu is prepared differently from the above. It doesn't need to be refrigerated and is usually sold on the shelf or in an aisle. It comes in a box and has little water surrounding the tofu. Silken tofu has a very squishy consistency and, long story short, cannot be pressed. It can, however, be drained. While it says silken tofu on the box, but where it can be confusing it, that is also says soft, firm, extra firm. Silken tofu works well for foods you want to blend, such as smoothies, puddings, cheesecakes, and the like. My first interaction with tofu was at a restaurant where they served me this white soggy blob swimming in black bean sauce. No, I later found out that this was silken tofu, not being used in the best way. In order to get that crispy on the outside, deliciously seasoned, lovely textured tofu, the numbers step almost every single time. Except with silken tofu, It is to press it. Press your tofu. Pressing is draining tofu. Pressing your tofu removes all of that liquid from it, leaving room for your tofu to actually soak up your seasonings and marinade. In fact, if you make tofu for meat replacement purposes, and you let it soak overnight in a marinade without pressing it, chances are high that the marinade will have had no effect on the tofu since it just can't soak it up. You'll want to press your tofu for about 30 minutes. This is how you ensure that as much of the liquid as possible is removed. I wouldn't recommend cutting this time down, especially if you want crispy tofu. How to press tofu? Here are 2 ways to press tofu. Use a tofu press. A tofu press is a very simple mechanism that basically screws your tofu into the press to press out the liquid. You can adjust it to any level of pressing that you want, and it works wonders. It takes the fear out of everything on top of your tofu toppling over. And for someone like me who uses tofu so often, it's paid for itself. Prices range from $20 to $30. But it's probably going to last you for life. Pressing tofu for us now takes less than 5 minutes to set up, from cutting up the tofu bag to putting it in the press. Draining your tofu? There are some recipes where you don't want to press your tofu as much, or you're using silken tofu, for example. In this case, you'll want to just wrap it in a kitchen towel or paper towel to drain excess liquid from your tofu. This is not the method I recommend when using tofu as a meat replacement. Ingredients: 1 pound block of tofu, pressed for at least 30 minutes and cut into 1-inch pieces. Marinade recipe: 1 4-cup light soy sauce. Don't use regular soy sauce. You can always use liquid, tamari, or coconut aminos. 3 tablespoons rice wine vinegar. 2 teaspoons sesame oil. 4 teaspoons agave, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, 1 teaspoon onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, preferably smoked, 2 tablespoons water. Instructions: in a medium-sized bowl, place the pressed and cubed tofu. Add the soy sauce and toss to coat. Add in all of the other marinade ingredients: rice wine vinegar, sesame oil, agave, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, paprika, and water, and toss to thoroughly combine. Ensure all the pieces are coated, and let the tofu sit in the marinade for at least 30 minutes, up to 2 days. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.